your host, Michael McAuliffe, and with me in the studio are my co-host, Perry Heichu, and our guest of the day, Bruce Gale, attorney Bruce Gale. You can say hi, Bruce.
Hi, Bruce. Good morning.
All right, we're going to get right into it. We're expecting a phone call in a few minutes from one of our legislators, and then an update from upstate a little later on in the program. But I wanted to get right into it with the Nevada elections that are in progress right now in early voting. And we have an article out of the RJ that was just from yesterday that says likely voters narrowly support legalizing recreational marijuana. And it's an interesting poll showing that 800 likely voters and conducted by a firm called Bendixson and Amandi, and they found that 47% support the measure, which is exactly where it was in the RJ poll at the end of September, and now 43% oppose it, which is a drop of 3% from September. And so that's a pretty good sign, and the poll has a margin of error of plus and minus 3.5%. So in that sense, the poll shows that the public is supporting this, although Anthony Williams, who's the special projects director over at Bendixson and Amandi, says that anytime you're under 50% at this point, frankly, that would make me nervous. So it does make us nervous, and make sure you get all your friends out there to vote. When I went out to vote last Saturday on the first day of early voting, I made sure I took my little old lady neighbor from across the street who said, well, can you mark my ballot for me, because I haven't read all these things. And so I did. So we got 2 votes for yes there. And you should do the same thing. Vote early, vote often. And so where we stand now is that it looks like there's an enthusiasm gap between the two parties, and so that favors passage of question 2.
Oh, the numbers are astounding.
Yeah, they are. Bruce, you have the number of registered voters here. So where do we stand here in Clark County?
Well, for now it's good, but historically, more Democrats early vote, and a lot more Republicans, they voted on Election Day. And so if you think very simplistically that maybe more Democrats are going to vote yes, more Republicans are going to vote no on question 2, let's stay tuned. It's not time to break open the champagne yet.
Well, that's interesting. I saw an article on Politico.com a couple of days ago that talks about this enthusiasm gap and says that because of the split of the Never Trump and the Trump supporters, that if it looks like Donald Trump is going down to defeat in the next couple of weeks, as it seems to, but if on Election Day there is a sweep of East Coast states, and there's a good possibility that the election will be decided before it actually hits the West Coast, then that can have the effect of depressing the turnout that you're talking about, because most Republican voters, in fact, do vote on Election Day on their way home from the polls. So if they're hearing that the presidential election is already lost before they go to vote, it may well depress that turnout even further in the West Coast states.
Are we flashing back to the primary where someone was accusing, or Ben Carson was accusing another one of the candidates of suppressing their vote? I think it was Cruz who was doing that, sending out the robocall saying, "Oh, we already won the primary.
Yeah.
Don't go out and vote for Carson. It's okay. Just come on over to the winning team over here."
Well, nobody really wants to vote for a losing candidate, and so if they think that their team is losing, I do see where that will convince some people to just sit at home and be able to say, well, I didn't vote for them.
Oh, sure, of course. There's a lot of bandwagoners out there. Have you ever seen Cowboys fans? Holy cow.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we seem to have now over a million registered voters in Clark County. And what kind of percentage do we have so far in early voting?
I think it's about 50% for Democrats and about 32% for Republicans. About 170,000 registered voters
that have cast their votes. So 17% of the electorate has already cast votes just in the first within the first 5 days or so of early voting
in Clark County. But I want to go back to your comment you were talking about. If some Republicans who vote on election day see that it looks like Trump might lose the election, it might suppress their vote on question 2. Right before I came over here, I was flipping between MSNBC and CNN, and Nevada, as of this morning, has flipped back to a battleground state as opposed to leaning blue, leaning towards Democrats. So again, could change on a day-to-day basis.
And the thing is, as far as we're concerned, with question 2, I have it on eyewitness authority that Republicans do smoke marijuana. and so this is not purely
a lot of
left-right
Republicans.
issue.
There's a lot of Republicans that smoke cannabis. I know a lot of people who work for the party and for various consulting groups who would definitely be outcast if they were to come out of the cannabis closet. And it's really, really disappointing, all the way down from walkers knocking on doors all the way up to managers and organizers and things like that, who will they can't cross that line.
Right.
And it's really, really disappointing that people can't even be themselves among their supposed peers and professional colleagues for fear of retribution.
And it really, as I said, it's not purely a left-right issue, and as you're pointing out. That being said, that when you poll these groups as a whole, you do get more of a tendency for acceptance of this issue on the left, and more of a tendency to stick with prohibition on the right.
Sure.
And what I see is that, and what we've seen throughout the cycle, is that the largest single group of people supporting question 2 and legalization in the country in general is the under 35 group, and there's something like 64% of them. The problem there is that convincing young people to get out there and vote, and I'm talking to you.
Yeah, it always has been historically.
It always has been. The senior crowd votes. They vote to protect their Social Security and other things, and they're more conservative on this issue than the electorate in general. So it doesn't matter if we've won the hearts and minds. If we don't actually win it at the ballot box, we're still stuck in a regressive system which criminalizes this personal behavior. So it's interesting to see what's happening here with the RJ. Obviously, Sheldon Adelson, who owns the RJ, is dead set against this, but his own paper is showing that they're losing a little
to
bit
the
of
tune of
ground.
$2 million personally donated against question 2 recently, and I believe he donated an additional
$1 million in Arizona.
and I think he donated another $500,000 in Florida. I don't know if that's true, but I think he's going after them again.
Well, I'm fine with him spreading his bets around and not putting it all here on the table in Nevada.
Right.
So we'll see where this goes. We're going to track this over the next couple of weeks, and finally, in 2 weeks, this thing is going to be over. For everybody and everything.
Can we talk about
Please.
about 22% of the voting block in Clark County, and that's about 220,000 independent voters, and how you think they might vote on question 2. My understanding, historically, independents tend to lean to the right, but maybe this year they might be leaning left.
Yeah, but on fiscal issues mostly, like social issues, maybe not so much. It's all situational. This is kind of I guess this is a fiscal and a social situation tied into one, isn't it? So we'll see how that rolls.
on this issue, though, on this poll from the RJ, independents were in line with Democrats, with 51% saying they support it, compared to 34% in opposition. Okay. So if they do get out there and vote, this question 2 may have enough to make it over the finish line. And I have been, we're going to talk with other people later today and in the course of the next week or so. But nobody wants to say we're comfortable with this, because it's all about getting out the vote. And it always is in any election. But what I also saw from the RJ is another story by Rachel Crosby, and it says, for average marijuana user, legalization may not alter enforcement in Nevada. And I'd want to ask you about this, because obviously if question 2 passes, the penalties will see a massive overhaul for cannabis use. But in practice, says Sergeant Craig Lausignon from the Metropolitan Police Department. But in practice, policing won't change that much for the average user, at least. He says we don't go after marijuana users right now. There are more important things to be doing. He further on says that he clarifies that arrests involving simple possession do happen, but generally, if somebody gets arrested for user amounts of marijuana, it's because they're making other bad choices. Other bad choices. I mean, that would be like, opening the door and inviting Metro in. That would be a bad choice.
Allowing them to search you without a warrant.
That's a
or
bad
probable
choice.
Cause. I mean, they say it's just more double talk from the same people who we've been hearing from this entire time. Enforcement won't change much. Nonsense. We're going to force the issue. They have not changed their policies proactively, so we're going to force the issue.
Well, they say this is the law, and so we have to enforce it.
So we're going to change the law.
But what he says here, Lucino, says that buying and using usable amounts of marijuana never come under law enforcement scrutiny.
Nonsense.
Can you define usable amounts?
Is it 1 ounce or less, or it depends, I guess, on your personal use?
Is a usable
and
amount
your
how much
resistance.
you can consume in one sitting? Is it your annual supply? Obviously, they don't think it's that. But really, to say usable amounts never come under law enforcement scrutiny is just nuts.
That's nonsense. I mean, the last marijuana possession charge I had was over less than a joint. So I'm not going to sit here and say, a usable amount. I mean, I've heard some people say a usable amount, a joint will last them for a few days. And some people will say, well, do you know what I call it when I have a quarter left? That means I'm out.
Yeah.
It's just one of those perception things. So.
Well, we have a guest on the line, and we're going to ask him about this. We're going to take a quick commercial break and then come back with State Senator Tick Segerblom.
Nevada Pure is a premier, vertically integrated medical marijuana enterprise which offers top quality medical marijuana, great customer service, and a safe, private environment. We carry a wide selection of medical cannabis strains. Our knowledgeable staff will assist you in finding the correct strain for your condition. Our trained professional staff can educate you on various strains for your condition, methods of consumption, responsible cannabis use, and the wellness benefits of cannabis. We aim to help patients achieve a better quality of life. Medical marijuana is a medicine, not an intoxicant. It's about a patient's well-being at Nevada Pure. From the moment you make an appointment with us, your care, health, and well-being is our priority. Nevada Pure is located at 4360 Boulder Highway, Las Vegas, Nevada. Check out their entire menu at WWDBTV.com.
Attention medical marijuana patients. Did you know that your medicine could contain pesticides, heavy metals, and even mold? Are you really sure that you're getting the same potency every single time? Well, the answer to that question is simple. DigiPath Labs. DigiPath Labs is a state-approved laboratory run by scientists. So look for the DigiPath Labs quality seal on your next medicine and on the door of your favorite dispensary. To learn more, go to digipathlabs.com. That's DIGIPATH labs.com.
And we're back with our guest today. State Senator Tick Segerblom is with us on the phone. And welcome to the show, Senator.
Thank you.
Wow, we're finally down to it. We've been working towards this for a long time, and early voting has started. And we were just discussing that the RJ's latest poll shows a drop in opposition, and also that they had an article which referenced you that legalization may not alter law enforcement in Nevada. And let me ask you first.
I think the key word is may not.
May not. Yeah. Well, for me, the key word is when the Metro Lieutenant says buying and using usable amounts of marijuana never come under law enforcement security. And with me in the studio are Perry Haichu, who you know, of course, and Bruce Gale, who's also an attorney in the state, and
running for judge.
And running for judge, yes. And you know, we like people who support common sense issues on this. But I was asking Bruce, what is a usable amount of marijuana? Is that does not seem to be quantifiable, and it just seems to be doublespeak on the part of the lieutenant.
Absolutely, and I have people who have been arrested for just having a paraphernalia in their car, having a roach in their car, having a few seeds in their car. So the reality is that was a total misnomer as far as their statement that they don't arrest most people. I mean, the fact is, if they stop you for a traffic violation and they smell something and see something, they will arrest you.
Absolutely, they will.
Especially if you're African American or Latino.
Yes, I've seen a study come out that shows that even though that people, whether they're white, black, or some shade in between, consume cannabis at roughly the same amount, and yet African Americans are 4 times as likely to be arrested for simple possession. We're not even talking about higher level offenses. So hopefully, question 2 in passing will address this disparity and break that chain, or those chains that enslave people who are caught up in the drug war.
Absolutely. That's the number one reason to pass it, is just to get it out of the criminal justice system so people don't get arrested, don't have to hire lawyers. The defense lawyers have to find some other things to work on. The cops have to worry about something different. The jails have to worry about something different. And the judges have to worry about something different. So the amount of resources just in the criminal justice system that will be diverted once this passes is huge.
Yes, and this is, and saying they're having to find something else to do does not belittle it at all. There's plenty of other work for all those entities to do. I had read statistics showing that in 1973, after the start of the war on drugs, or at the start of the war on drugs, really, the murder closure rate in this country by police was 80%, and as of the most recent year that they had statistics for, 2013, it had gone down to 67.5%. So law enforcement has been putting more resources towards going after nonviolent personal choice activities, and as a result, more people are literally getting away with murder. So I'm with you on refocusing police priorities.
The question or comment I have is, and this is for Tick and Michael and Perry and whoever is listening, is it the same amount of law enforcement scrutiny, but they're doing less arrest and they're more likely to issue a citation for small amounts? I've had a couple of potential clients come in, and they were a casino, and they had small amounts of possession of marijuana on them, and they were both issued citations. They weren't taken into custody. They weren't arrested. So
right, but they came to you, so that cost them $500.
Sure.
The fine is $600.
Yeah.
So just the amount of resource just involved with that, just getting a citation is huge.
Well, after I had been on face-to-face with you back in 2012, and the police came in a week later, and they arrested me and they charged me, even though the charges were completely dismissed, and even though I had a retinue of attorneys to work pro bono, I still was out of pocket $1,500 for bail, and that money never came back. So there are a lot of hidden costs in cannabis prohibition.
What about all the damage to your sister's house?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, ultimately, that's what insurance is for. But let me ask, Tick, what are you hearing about how early voting is going? What I've seen so far, and we just said, is that roughly 17% of eligible voters have cast their ballot, and there seems to be a definite enthusiasm gap between the Democratic and Republican parties.
Absolutely. So I'm telling you, a quarter of the vote, the ultimate vote, is already in. And the reality is, this is not a Democratic or a Republican issue. So just the fact that one party or another party is voted more, it probably doesn't even matter. I mean, the fact is, our polls are showing both parties support over 50%, and really more the age thing. But the reality is, we're making sure that the young voters come out, which is the key, because those people are 80-90% support of question 2.
And, our preferred candidate, Bernie Sanders, was just in the past few days ramping up and getting his supporters out there to vote and letting them know that this was not a choice to vote for a third party or sit on their hands this time. And just in the past few days, he did a phone bank solicitation and raised a couple of $1 million for congressional candidates. So it seems that the younger voters are listening and following his lead. And of course, the big problem is always trying to get people out to vote. Now, it seems here in Nevada, it is as easy as it possibly can be, and that's thanks in no small part to the legislature. Well,
if you look at other states like Colorado and Oregon, everybody gets mailed ballots. They can just mail it in. So I mean, we've got a lot of things we can do to improve the system. But But the fact is, we have a very organized system to get people who are already registered to vote, and that's what we're working on now. We're telling everybody, if you're registered, you need to vote, and we're dragging them to the polls, we're pushing them to the polls, we're pulling them to the polls, we're busing them to the polls, but they're going so far, so that's great.
Unfortunately, that's what the Trump campaign has been saying, that the Democrats are busing people to the polls, and then to those polls, and then to those polls, and
and that's not illegal.
Right, it's not illegal to do it, and the whole idea that you're getting organized groups of people to vote more than once, though, is just absurd. And our election system, from everything that I've seen in the 40 years that I've been voting, has shown there's remarkable resiliency in the system and the ability to catch people who would cheat. And so I cannot remember an incident of voter fraud happening in Nevada.
Acorn.
Oh, okay.
I worked against them. I was there when they were registering the Dallas Cowboys or Tony Romo as a Democrat and all that kind of nonsense. They hired a lot of felons right off the street, and they were desperate to get there.
But that was vote registration. No one has ever actually voted. The only person we know that's voted twice or tried to vote twice was a Republican woman out in Pahrump.
And she got busted for it. That's right. I remember that.
Whether it's left or right, yes, anybody who tries to do that should get busted and be made an example of, because the sacrosanct nature of our democracy demands that we have integrity in the voting system. And from everything that I've read and seen, we do have it. Our in-studio producer handed me a note saying that while he was in line to vote, a woman in front of him said that she was voting no on two because she felt we don't need more DUIs on the road. And I'd like you to address that, Tick, because we see in Colorado the no on two people are saying, well, the percentage of pot-related DUIs has gone up, but in fact the numbers overall have gone down, and those arrests for cannabis-related DUI have essentially remained flat. So.
Absolutely, they're pulling everything they can to lie about this. But the fact is, in both Washington State and Colorado, which are the two states that have had legal the longest, total DUIs are down. There's more people that show up with marijuana in their blood with a DUI, but they also have alcohol in their blood, and so it's really more now. They're testing for it, so it shows up.
Right.
But the fact is, there are no more total, absolutely marijuana with nothing else in their system, DUIs, and the total number of DUIs has gone down. And the opioid deaths have gone down. I mean, anywhere that legal marijuana is, the overall benefit to society is undisputable.
Without a doubt, because not only are you putting money into the public revenue stream and taking it away from the illicit market, but also from another study that I see right here, it says that in states that have medical marijuana, it does not cause more teenage stoners. And it was published in the journal Drug and Alcohol Dependence and was done by Columbia University, reading a survey of over 50,000 people each year, and said that that legalizing medical marijuana didn't make teens think that the drug was more readily available. And so if teen use is down in those states, once you remove that forbidden fruit nature of this issue, then teens are less likely to use it. And so if it is well regulated and people have a business license at risk if they sell to underage, then they're not going to do it. And I just find what the No on 2 people are doing, and the other campaigns across the country, are just distorting, taking half-truths and distorting them out of all credibility.
Well, I remember when I was young, we used to have liquor stores that would sell to younger people because they wanted the money or whatever. We used to have a joke. There was an X&O liquor over on the east side of town. We used to make the joke that if you showed your Las Vegas high school ID, you'd get a discount. But they have various
Times have changed.
Well, yeah, no kidding. They have little teams that go in and kind of, like, they send kids in, undercovers do. The police will send kids in to try to buy alcohol from these people, and they'll get a fine. And you'll hear, we tested 150 alcohol selling locations, and only like 5 of them, sold booze to minors. What do you think the story would be if 5 of the 150 dispensaries in a town sold pot to minors? But you never hear about those stories because they're self-regulating, and they're doing a pretty damn good job about it. Yeah, and you better believe they tried to do it too. But you never hear that side of the story about how well these places are doing for the most part. So I don't really understand what the argument is.
Let me ask you about that, Tick. If you did have a we have legalization, and then you have somebody who is caught selling to kids, wouldn't they be subject to the already in place distributing and trafficking and selling laws? That those are not going to be repealed in any way for under 21, are they?
Oh, exactly. And the reality is the dispensary is going to lose their license. So I mean, there are penalties in place, and that's what now we have a system where you actually know what you're doing, so you can monitor it, and if people are doing the wrong thing, we can actually do something about it. One of the reasons we had to go to the medical system was because the law was so unclear that people were being arrested for marijuana possession, and then they're saying, well, if I can't get it legally, then you can't arrest me. And Judge Mosley, remember, had actually issued that opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
After the Sin City Co-op guy killed himself,
exactly.
He was facing life in prison for running a dispensary in 2010 and decided to take his own life. His name was Nate. I hope people don't forget about that story.
Yep. I obviously, as you know, Tick, that Sheldon Adelson is the #1 financial supporter of this of the anti crowd here, and he's also, besides donating $2 million to that here in Nevada, threw $1 million in Arizona just a couple of days ago, and reportedly threw $500,000 in Florida, and
Massachusetts too.
Oh my.
And yet at the same, so he's throwing all this money, and at the same time, just before we went on the air, Perry told me that he flashed an RJ piece that just came up saying that Adelson is now going to be pulling his now that he's got public financing, he's going to be pulling his money out of the stadium that's supposed to get built. So he's put all this money on the line for that, and now is pulling that back, and yet
Indian giver.
Yeah,
Did you see this coming, Senator? Is that why you took that stance against the stadium bill? Because I know you're not shy about raising funds, let's say here in the state, but you seem to be so adamantly against the stadium deal. Did you smell a rat or a snake in the grass here?
Well, I knew that we shouldn't do anything rushed to judgment on this thing, And if you look at Sheldon's history, when he first built the Venetian, he screwed 80 subcontractors, had to file bankruptcy. I mean, his whole history has been to put something out there and then pull it back, which once bait and switch. So I'm not shocked at this at all, and so we'll have to see where it goes. But the fact is, and I'm not sure about the Oakland Raiders either, because their whole history is to bait and switch. So they moved their team around trying to get the best deal. So I could certainly see them using this to go back to Oakland and use that as leverage to get Oakland to build them a stadium. I apologize, guys. I've got to go. But I'll just tell all your listeners, we need to vote for question 2. I mean, it's not over till it's over. So if you haven't voted, please vote. This is so critical.
Join a winning team here. All right. Thanks so much for your time, Senator. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Back. Great. And we'll be right back just after a quick commercial break.
From the soothing sounds of a water wall to the warmth, wood interior, and beautiful artwork, as soon as you enter Sahara Wellness, you are welcomed into a relaxing space where we strive to provide our patients with a healthy balance of mind, body, and spirit. That balance is achieved through a compassionate and knowledgeable staff who possesses both a passion for the medical cannabis industry as well as unrivaled dedication to assisting those in need of a natural method of pain relief. Our bud tenders are available to assist patients in selecting cannabis-based medicine that best suits their needs from our selection of flower, waxes, CBD lotions, and delicious edibles. Sahara Wellness is located at 420 East Sahara Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada. Check out our entire menu at www.420sahara.com.
Hi, I'm Armin Yamanijan, CEO of Essence Dispensaries, and I'd like to let you know a little bit about our company. As a completely complimentary service, our on-site nurse is here to meet with any patient or non-patient to discuss dosing and best practices. We have 3 convenient locations. We have one location on Tropicana between Decatur and Jones, which is our west side location. Our Henderson location is on the corner of Sunset and Green Valley Parkway, and we're proud to announce that we have the first and only dispensary on the Las Vegas Strip, on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Sahara. Our prices are the lowest prices prices in town and the highest quality medicine. Please come and see us at one of our 3 convenient locations or visit us at essencevegas.com. You can also call us at 702-978-7575. Once again, the number is 702-978-7575.
And welcome back to the Weekend 702 Nevada Cannabis News Hour. We are here with my co-host, Perry Heichu, and our guest, Bruce Gale. And Bruce, let's pick up on the discussion that we were having with Tick there, which is about selling to minors. And people think that this is going to be a big danger out there. And from what I see in the statutes and the initiative, no, it's not.
No medical marijuana establishment, I think, is going to insufficiently train their help to run the risk of suspension or revocation of their medical marijuana establishment certificate.
Or retail recreational establishment once that comes into play.
Yes, for a sale of minor amount. When you know as well as I do, getting involved in this industry is very capital intensive.
No doubt.
There was a $250,000 minimal capital requirement for each medical marijuana establishment. The reality is add a zero at the end of that, and that's what we're talking about. And every medical marijuana establishment I'm familiar with at this juncture is, if they're lucky, they're breaking even, and some of them are losing money and hemorrhaging money and waiting to see what's going to happen.
Hey, that's nonsense. This is a healthy and robust industry, primed for explosion. Raw.
Primed for, but right now sputtering along, I think. And you bring up a good point there, Bruce, in that the businesses or partnerships who have opened these businesses have, even the smaller ones, have a couple of $1 million invested in this. They're definitely into 7 figures. And really, what could someplace expect to do if they sold to this minor or that minor or even a class full of minors? What would they make? $1,000, $5,000, $10,000? It just does not make any sense economically that they would look for that short-term, relatively small amount of cash flow and putting millions of dollars at risk.
I agree.
So it just, I don't see the sense of that argument. And
I was going to chip in with something like
Please.
that. I watch Shark Tank once in a while. I think it's a great show. I have a lot of fun watching the back and forth, and some reporter kind of got them off camera and was like, "Look, how do you guys feel about marijuana? A lot of people have been wanting to get on the show with marijuana related businesses," and they all of them commented, and Mark Cuban's like, "Look, the market's oversaturated, Snoop's already in it, and if Snoop's in it, then there's no room for me, so I'm out." But the rest of them, like Lori Greiner and Mr. Wonderful and all them, they're all for it. They're like, "Oh yeah, if marijuana was ever like really legal to where their financial representatives would allow them to go for it, they would go all in." But well, not all in, but they would be very interested due to the profit potential. But what they were all saying, like one basically like taking the line right out of the other, was saying, just regurgitating each other's statements, saying basically it's too difficult. The regulatory process and all that, it's too hard to get in. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, these people have filed hundreds of patents, built dozens of businesses. Some of them are worth multiple billions of dollars with a B. And they're sitting here telling us that it's too hard, it's too much work to get in, too much paperwork, too much this or that. It boggled my mind.
Well, if they made billions of dollars, they probably have good accountants and take good advantage of the tax laws and are very sharp and savvy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact is that as long as IRS Rule 280E remains in place, they cannot take deductions for the vast majority of a marijuana business-based expense. And that makes a difference in many cases between profitability or loss.
But where I was kind of circling back to with all that is back to the selling to minors. If some of the most publicly visible, successful business operators in the country are fearful of this because of the regulatory prohibitions or how strict the regulations are, and they just don't want to deal with it, doesn't that speak well for the amount of regulation that we have put on the industry to say this is relatively safe, to not, I don't want to say scare away big investors, but for people who have such success to be a little hesitant because of it, that should speak well to these people who have gone through the process and gone through this and
So
succeeded.
you mean the teeth are already in the regulation?
I suppose so, yeah.
What do you think about that, Bruce?
I think there's a good argument to that. Perry, I love Shark Tank. I tape every Friday night and I watch it, and it's one of my favorite shows. I think that, many of the persons on Shark Tank probably will have a change of mind if something happens at the federal level.
Oh, yeah.
I think they would be willing to jump in with both feet, off 10 toes, 10 fingers.
Yeah, they would find ways to get through that difficult regulatory process that they describe. Yeah.
So, and let me divert onto another subject that doesn't quite, it's not directly about cannabis, but it can certainly get in there. And that's just in the past several days, I've seen a couple of U.S. senators say, and most recently John McCain said the other day, well, we're okay if we don't approve a single Supreme Court justice if Hillary wins. And right now we're down from 9 to 8, and there is talk in certain circles that it wouldn't be a bad thing to let the Supreme Court kind of die out, or get down to 3 members or something like that. And that just struck me as a phenomenal shift in our government, and the judiciary is a co-equal branch, and you're running for a judicial position. What do you think about the importance of the judiciary in our everyday lives? I've certainly seen how it affects me when I've been in a courtroom, but what do you think about that?
It's critical. They're the equalizing factor of in avoiding chaos and anarchy. They are 1/3.
Well, that's what the police say they are.
Yeah, they are 1/3. They're a co-equal branch of government, and what the U.S. Senate has done, what they have not done, is comply with their constitutional requirements. The president is supposed to appoint, and you have the advice and consent of the Senate. And historically, this has never happened. There was just I was watching either MSNBC or CNN the other day, and it had the time period, I think, when Justice Kennedy, from the time that he was nominated till he had a hearing, and some of these other justices, and Garland by far is way in excess. I think it's about 245 days have passed since his nomination by President Obama, and it's
the hyper-partisan attitude that's
it's insane.
Captivated the country.
And for one party to say that they're already constitutionally limiting the current president, say he's only got the ability to make judicial nominations in the first 3 years, and the 4th year, well, that's got to be the next president. And now they're saying that, well, if it's not the president we like, then we don't want to give that to the next president. But I guess my question to you, Bruce, is, okay, that's the Supreme Court, high and mighty, highest court in the land. But how would multiple vacancies and lessening of the number of justices affect one down on a district court level? Because ultimately, squabbles on the district court level.
Well, it's already had an effect on. There was I can't remember the case that the Supreme Court at the very last days of its last term, it was a 4-4 decision. So, and with that result, the decision of the lower court of appeals, United States Court of Appeals, that decision stands.
In that district.
Well, yeah, but
we have a couple of cases where the 4-4 decision resulted in letting 2 lower court rulings stand, which were in opposition.
Exactly, and so that's problematic. This shouldn't happen. And what the U.S. Senate has not done. I'm not making a partisan argument. I would have a problem if it was a Democratic-controlled Senate,
right?
And they did the same thing,
right?
I mean, the Constitution is real clear. The president's supposed to nominate, and the Senate's supposed to hold a hearing with advice and consent.
Oh no, I wouldn't. I'll echo that sentiment. I'm not really. I kind of lean to the right, and I'm not really happy with what's going on either, because I wouldn't want them doing the same damn thing. I'm not as impressed with. I'm not in a big hurry to put a bunch of Republican judges on with their socially conservative agenda. No, nor am I, so encouraged to put Democrats on. I think we should, it shouldn't be about that. It should just be about, like you said, you run as a nonpartisan, as a judge. We should start looking at at judges as such and start looking at their credentials. Once again, like this Mr. Garland they were talking about. I saw when Obama gave that speech and the dude was like in tears. He was just like, I'm so, grateful to be nominated for so honored and this and that. And he was
well qualified.
That's what I've heard. But
and
it's not about
it's
not about him being qualified or not. It has nothing to do with whether he's a good person or not.
Politics.
It's what is he blue or red? And that really, that's just terrible. I don't really know how else to put that.
It is.
Well, let's talk about Garland because.
Let's take it down to a more local level because obviously you've been an attorney in town for 25, 30 years or
28 years.
28 years, you old man. And so on a more local level, I've seen here in Nevada that district court judges are not exclusively civil or criminal. Those judges have a wide range of cases that they hear typically, not family court, that's a special court, but in general. And so it seems to me that even though anybody can run for judge, one who's familiar with various aspects of the law, it's a better, a better fit, I would say, because we've seen some judges in this county who are disastrous. And so I guess where I'm going with this is, given the wide range of issues that a district court judge has to deal with, do you think that these hyper-partisan issues on a federal level echo down and do cause any disruption to judges at a lower level? Is it because you're not worried about getting overturned, you're not worried about every case going to the Supreme Court, but does it affect lower court thinking?
I don't think so much at the state level in our district courts, because for a case to get from our state district court to Nevada Court of Appeals and then to the Supreme Court of Nevada, and then for the Supreme Court of the United States to grant, cert, because there's no automatic appeal. They have to grant a writ of certiorari. So it has to be, really, unique or important federal issue. And so I don't see it affecting, having much effect at the state level.
Well, that's a good thing, I guess. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Getting Legal offers an informative and simple way for you to get your marijuana card. Why come to Getting Legal to get your marijuana card? We have a 99% approval rating and the lowest price in town. Avoid legal problems. Getting Legal can get you legal fast. Ready for a new start? Come in now and get relief from your chronic conditions affecting your quality of life. Call Getting Legal today at 702-979-9999. That's 702-979-9999, or visit our website at gettinglegal.com to get your marijuana card today.
Nevada Pure is a premier, vertically integrated medical marijuana enterprise which offers top quality medical marijuana, great customer service, and a safe, private environment. We carry a wide selection of medical cannabis strains. Our knowledgeable staff will assist you in finding the correct strain for your condition. Our trained professional staff can educate you on various strains for your condition, methods of consumption, responsible cannabis use, and the wellness benefits of cannabis. We aim to help patients achieve a better quality of life. Medical marijuana is a medicine, not an intoxicant. It's about a patient's well-being at Nevada Pure. From the moment you make an appointment with us, your care, health, and well-being is our priority. Nevada Pure is located at 4360 Boulder Highway, Las Vegas, Nevada. Check out their entire menu at WWDBTV.com. From the soothing sounds of a water wall to the warmth, wood interior, and beautiful artwork, as soon as you enter Sahara Wellness, you are welcomed into a relaxing space where we strive to provide our patients with a healthy balance of mind, body, and spirit. That balance is achieved through a compassionate and knowledgeable staff who possesses both a passion for the medical cannabis industry as well as unrivaled dedication to assisting those in need of a natural method of pain relief. Our bud tenders are available to assist patients in selecting cannabis-based medicine that best suits their needs from our selection of flower, waxes, CBD lotions, and delicious edibles. Sahara Wellness is located at 420 East Sahara Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada. Check out our entire menu at www.420sahara.com.
Attention medical marijuana patients. Do you know what your cannabis actually contains? Are there heavy metals, pesticides, or even mold? And what strength is it really? And is it really what you need? Well, the answers to these questions are simple. DigiPath Labs. DigiPath Labs is a Nevada state-approved medical marijuana testing facility whose scientists carefully test products for safety and potency, all within the state's rigorous mandate. You can buy with confidence and trust knowing DigiPath Labs has tested your medicine. If you're a licensed grower, dispenser, extractor, or edibles manufacturer in Nevada and want unparalleled customer service and consumer confidence, go to digipathlabs.com and find out what we can do for you. And as a patient, only go to dispensaries that carry the DigiPath Labs seal of approval. That's digipathlabs.com, DIGIPATH labs.com. Or call us at 702-209-2429. That's 702-209-2429.
Welcome back to the Weekend 702 Nevada Cannabis News Hour. We're talking about mostly about the election that's upcoming, and because this is an issue that is not only in Nevada, but it is around the country, with 5 states voting for flat-out recreational legalization and 4 more states voting for medical marijuana laws. And we're seeing movement in the oddest of places sometimes. And we recently on the show, we had talked about a story where the wife of one of the gubernatorial candidates in Utah had been busted trying to mail herself medical marijuana to an out-of-state address. And sidebar, never do that. That is a big mistake. Okay, because what happens is it calls in the federal government, and if they want you, they've got you. Trust me on that one. But in this particular case, the wife of gubernatorial candidate Mike Weinholtz was not prosecuted by federal authorities. She wound up, they decided not to prosecute because the amount was really too small for them to be concerned with. And Salt Lake City district attorney decided not to because there was a conflict of interest because he knew these people. So they sent it out to another county DA. And the wife of this candidate last Tuesday pled guilty to misdemeanor pot possession charge. And, you know, my heart goes out to her. Nobody, especially medical patients, should suffer the indignity of being charged and being certainly being forced to plead to these things. But the reason that I bring this up is because in the wake of that plea, Mike Weinholtz has now rolled out a plan to legalize medical marijuana in Utah. Wow. You know, that's just incredible. And he
What
said,
timing?
What timing? He said, it's bigger than just my wife and my family. There are thousands of Utahns that are struggling with these very many different types of conditions. And I say bravo to
no
him
shit,
for
they have been
doing
for
this.
decades.
Yeah, you know, but you're right, Perry, the timing of this. It seems, you know, and I can say that being involved in Nevada politics for some years now and trying to get the legislature to pay attention to this back in 08 and back in 10, they were like, oh, this isn't an important issue. There are so many other things more important, and this is, you know, low on the ladder and all that, and that's true. And this is legalization, recreation, stopping the persecution and prosecution of medical patients and responsible adult consumers is never important until you or a loved one is directly involved. And that's what we're seeing here. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm glad he has seen the light, even if it is at, you know, at the end of his wife's joint. I'm glad that, you know, that he's come to this point. But, you know, it seems a damn shame that that so many people are reluctant to get involved in this issue until it hits at home. And it's just, I don't know. What do you guys got to say about that?
Well, you know, he's a gubernatorial candidate, and again, this morning on MSNBC or CNN, and this has been discussed before, Utah is a battleground state because you have they're not
Evan McMullen, who's
They're a battleground state? Since when?
Utah is a battleground because you have a person that is running.
Evan McMullen's a Mormon,
yeah,
and he's pulling about 30% of the vote there, and so it's not that Trump or Clinton is going to get the majority, but McMullen could conceivably win Utah's 6 electoral votes.
Wow.
But even if not, he's pulling so many votes that it makes it a battleground for the other two.
That's
main
unbelievable.
candidates.
A guy I don't even know might have more electoral votes than Johnson, who's been pushing publicly this whole time. That's crazy.
And Bill
how
Johnson,
loyal are the freaking Mormons, man?
Well,
34, 35,
How loyal.
36% of the vote's going to win.
Man, that's a block I'd like to have a piece
is
of.
gonna
Good
get
Lord.
And
the
just
electoral votes for Utah.
just yesterday, I read that Bill Weld, who's the Libertarian vice presidential candidate, has essentially thrown in the towel, and he said, "Look, we're not going to win, but whatever you do, don't vote for Trump." And so there seems to be a push. Towards reality in that direction, I guess. Nobody expects these third-party candidates to win, but McMullen is on the ballot in 11 different states, and including Alaska. Apparently, the Mormons are one of the largest religious groups in Alaska. Something like 25% of the population.
I had no idea.
And so I think that. I think that's right. I may be confusing them with Idaho. I'm not.
It's Idaho, I would believe it for
maybe
sure.
it is Idaho now that as I think about it. But the point is, he could get some electoral votes in this, and that kind of and that's what makes Utah a battleground. So it's interesting to see where it's going. But
on a note of that, also with Utah, I'm very happy that the wife was only charged with simple possession for having over 2 pounds of cannabis.
Yes. Yeah. Really. Where anybody else pretty much would be charged with a felony, and in some places they'd try to label conspiracy or trafficking charges on them. So it's interesting, and I don't wish illness upon anyone. It just seems crazy though that so many politicians won't jump on board of this issue until it personally affects them. It just nuts. Let's get rid of that thing. I read that in Time magazine now, that according to Gallup, which is one of the most respected polling organizations in the country, now for the first time 60% of American adults support legalizing marijuana.
Wow.
And that is, if I may say, an all-time high. And so this has been going on. They've been asking these questions for 47 years. And when it started out, only 12 or 13% of the public was in favor of it. And in 2013, Americans tipped them into the majority status for legalization for the first time. And that number has steadily grown over the last several years. And so 60% of Americans saying enough of this failed war on drugs, enough of ruining people's lives over a plant, and enough of letting these gangs and illicit traffickers get all the money and control the market. So I don't know. This is something where we've turned the corner, and I think there's no going back on this.
That's what they said back in the late 60s. Also, though, we got the momentum. There's no going back now, and then Nixon happened.
Yep.
So,
absolutely true.
It's like you were saying earlier. When you think you got it won, you got to put your foot on the gas harder. Mm-hmm. You can't let these stomp out that fire of prohibition once and for all. Don't let it sprout up somewhere else.
So Bruce, they say that I hear him say that this is the most important election of our lifetime. I hear that every 4
years.
And really it is, because now is only when we're living. And I know you're running for district judge, and we can't endorse or anything, and so I'm not pushing it that way. But it is so important for people to get out and not just vote for the top of the ticket, for the president or for a senator or something like that, but all the way down ballot into university regents, into councilmen, into district court judges and the like. It's just crucially important on the direction our government goes.
Yeah, you just made a comment about how important it is, or how ironic that politicians don't get involved in medical marijuana, adult use of marijuana, till it hits home. Well, in a similar vein, a lot of people, voters, they don't care about or don't do much due diligence when it comes to voting for a judge, because it's not important to them until they find themselves embroiled in the judicial system.
Yeah.
And then they think a little bit differently. So it's too late then. So do your due diligence, do your homework.
Yeah, and a lock them up all the time judge is not necessarily a good thing, because also it puts a burden on the taxpayers.
If a judge campaigns on how many convictions he gets, I have I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I definitely do. Now, we're about out of time, and I'd like to thank our guest, Bruce Gale.
Yes, sir.
And you can do a little more research on him and get a hold of him. You have a website?
www.galeforjudge.com.
There you go. And you spell out the F-O-R, right?
Yes.
Okay,
And
there
it's
you
Gale,
go.
G-A-L-E.
There we go. And so, as we close, I would like to remind people once again of our spectacular, fabulous, over-the-top Halloween party, the 4th annual Halloween that Weekend is having this Saturday. It'll be down in Boulder City at a absolutely terrific location and lots of prizes.
We have great raffles, great prizes. It's at 115 Casa Montana Court in Boulder City, Nevada. It starts at 4:20 p.m. and runs all the way till midnight. We'll have about a dozen dispensaries, cultivation facilities represented with booths there. So you can go, if you have questions for these teams or you're looking to,
Looking
get
for
into
a
the industry
job.
or anything like
Yeah.
that. This is a great place to do networking, meet people, meet a lot of like-minded people, good vibes always. We have a great time.
It's a nice, mellow crowd, no drunks, no fights.
No, it's 4:20 p.m. to midnight on the 29th of October this Saturday. So please get out there and show your support. All the money we raise goes directly back into the patient community. None of us take a salary. We're very, very blessed to be able to hold these events. And
you can get this information on our Facebook page, the Weekend 702, on the Weekend 702 website,
weekend702.org.
And
speaking of websites, our studio that we're sitting in right now has a new website that we're going to start pushing. It's WWDBTV.com, Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.com. If you want to tune in live or call in, go to the website, and they got all the info for you.
They're really cool guys. We're thankful that we're working with them, and so we're going to say goodbye till next week. We'll bring you the latest election updates and onward to victory.